All right, how are we all doing, guys?
Good.
Hopefully I don't get...
Is that big black thing a microphone?
That is, yeah. I'm actually, one of the things I'm going to speak about at some point tonight is about doing a bit of video and kind of the future of where the internet's heading. A lot of that's got to do with video, so I thought I better put my money where my mouth is and actually record myself while I do this. So as I'm doing this, it's going to a YouTube channel, which is my kind of side company. So for you to keep up, having a website that you kind of left there and just hope that people would come to it, started to stop working because they were updating it so frequently that you really needed to be on top of it. This is where some of the companies that took their online presence really seriously started to look at the ROI, and this is kind of where the mind shift happened for. My website isn't just online to be informative, it actually should be getting me an ROI. And around 2005, 2010, a whole bunch of new platforms came online. Facebook, WhatsApp, YouTube, Maps, Twitter. There are all these new platforms where consumers were flocking to them and businesses weren't. So it took a while for the businesses to catch up. It usually takes a while for these marketplaces to kind of build their audience, and then businesses get involved. So when Facebook first came out, probably no ads, no businesses to rent to. As soon as they start getting mass market and lots of people, businesses start flocking on and using them as acquisition channels. Throughout that, there's also been a few technical changes, and these are like schema.org, APIs. So what's actually happening in the back end of websites is they're starting to connect to other online services. And that's kind of what your website should be doing. So I wanted to have a quick ask around to kind of see what people are interested in mainly talking about on the website front. Does anyone have any pain points of websites that they wish they knew how to deal with, or maybe it's just a particular issue? Yeah.
Sure, my name's Peter.
Hey, Peter.
Thank you for coming. I'm running Win 10, whatever the current version is, and I was running Firefox until this morning.
Yeah.
And Firefox I'm not running anymore. Now, I have version 60 or version 65 or additional, whatever it comes from 65 means. And I keep sending me things saying upgrade to 65.02.
Yeah.
I download it and I install it. And when I close down Firefox and open it, because I don't keep things open on my machine, and I open it up 10 minutes later, 65.02 doesn't stay there, and I've gone back to 65, so I just thought, I just gone to Google and put it on with it. And when you go in to use their help thing, you've got to register and do all that stuff. It's all too hard, but why won't the program, what stops it updating?
Itself? A lot of the time that it's waiting on some kind of permissions. It can't do something by itself. It can't...
Tell me once anything.
Yeah. What about website stuff? I'm more... Yeah.
I try and take... I don't like Windows Edge.
Yeah.
Take it off by changing one of the files.
Oh, yeah.
And, in a day or two, the file comes back again, despite the fact that I've changed it.
Yeah.
So
So you're just trying to hack the browsers. That's right. I mean, your customers shouldn't be having to do that, right? Regardless of what browser version you're currently using or your customers are currently using it, and this is maybe one thing that I'll touch on later, is how do you address all these different technologies and how do you make it look consistent across them all? And that's something I will be getting into. So this is meant to be an animated GIF. I couldn't figure it out. She's going like this. So my idea was that there's been a lot of changes over the last 15 years. There's going to be a lot more over the next 5. And it's going to get faster and faster. Internet usage is going global, and your website is now going to be expected to do more things. At this current point, I would say that most consumers that are using the internet for some kind of commerce are expecting your website or your web presence to serve customers and manage marketing. So they're expecting that it's kind of an all-in-one package. You're going to walk them through and they're going to take whatever action that needs. Mostly, I'm assuming for this crowd, it's going to be making an initial appointment. Do people have things on their websites that they want their customers to click on? Can I have a raise of hands who takes bookings online? Yeah, you've got a booking system built in?
Order online.
Yeah, okay, they can put an order in. Yeah.
Most of them don't do it.
Yeah. So this is...
To ring.
Yeah, they'll still ring the phone number. So this is one of the things that we're going to go into a bit about is when you're designing it, is making the user flow really simple. So when your customers kind of get to your website, they want to really be told what to do. They want to be told, okay, well, I'm going to your website. how do I book? And usually there's going to be a few actions, and having a number on that is kind of a catch-all. They will call you if they can't figure it out. But usually you want to make it so that maybe they can interact with you online, they can send you a message, and this is becoming more and more prevalent. In the next few years, I think what you're going to see is your website having to connect to many other services just from your website, and by 2025, I'm imagining most of this will be hands-free. You'll be able to set up an application that will do it all for you. You'll just have to set it up and pay some kind of ongoing monthly fees. I think the days of paying thousands of dollars for websites every year is almost over, which is probably thankful to a lot of people here. So I was talking about DIY ethics earlier, and my kind of proto title for this speech was DIY ethics are not just for punks. You can pull up your company by the bootstraps. So the idea is, after each section here, I'm going to list out a few tools that if you want to go and explore this yourself, you'll have the links there that you can go and do it. So I thought I'd start with, why should you be online? You know, the initial starting point, why should I care about my website? Well, one, because you care about your business, and it's likely that you want to get more leads in. It's likely that most people I speak to who have a website online, they kind of just have it there. It's just a thing that they have to pay for, and they don't really see it as an ROI generating asset. That's where I'm trying to change people's mind. I'm saying if you have a website, if you're paying for this thing, it should be generating you some kind of ROI. You should know what it's bringing in for you. Now, some of the benefits, that's where most of your customers are at this stage. And you can target them precisely. I'm going to go through a few tools a bit later where you can go through, yeah, question.
What we do is we've got a cross-reference back, so we do importing of equipment.
Yeah.
So when they look up, say, a 300-ton stamping press, it has a link to that, then it has a link back to us.
Yeah.
And then they click on us and they get to it that way. So
Nice.
So we try and pull it in different directions. I think that's what we're going.
So one of the other things that I'm going to talk about a little later is retargeting. So if somebody's gone to that site where you're offering some kind of machinery or some kind of booking or an initial consultation, most people will actually just look at your website and go somewhere else and then not come back. You can actually get ads to show up on Facebook, on LinkedIn, as soon as they go back to Facebook or LinkedIn. If you know they've been on your website and they haven't completed a purchase, you can actually go and reach back out to those people. And you get a really high rate of return based on that. And that's kind of what I'm going with. A little effort can go a long way. Setting up a few tools at the beginning can be really beneficial. You often find that as a customer sees your ad or your brand after a few times, the actual rate of conversion goes up. So they're more likely to become a customer if they see you more than once. And that's kind of it can work for you while you sleep. You can have a lot of these processes set up automatically so that you don't have to be doing anything. So I found this one interesting. It's saying that Australians spend more time online than working. So I'll do a breakdown a little later of, a lot of consumers are spending their time working, searching, and just general entertainment on the internet. But they're actually spending more time online than doing their actual work. So these are a few current stats that came out of a market report not too long ago that was talking about digital in Australia. So you can see here that within Australian users, we have about 88% penetration. That is 88% of the population are online. And I'd say the majority of these are in cities. I'd say that this stat would go up a lot higher if you were to just take the metropolitan areas. The difference between those using social media and those using social media on the phone is only 8%. So most of the customers out there are on social media. You should be trying to engage them on that platform. They're spending a lot of their time on social media and on their mobile phone. You should be reaching them at that point. In fact, Australia, we have 110% ratio of mobile phone connections to people, which means across Australia we actually have more mobile phone connections and numbers than we do population. And that's probably because people have multiple devices now. People have multiple SIM cards. I know I have 2 SIM cards at home, one for a 4G and one for my phone. Some people have tablets. People are always on their devices now. Most people have smartphones as well. So you can engage through some more clever advertising through smartphone features, knowing that most of the people are online and most of the people are using their phones. People are using TV and other devices a lot less. And now this wearable tech devices at 12%, that's going to go up. People are going to start interfacing a lot more with their phones, with other devices, with their cars. And that's kind of where the future is heading to. It's interconnecting between all these different things and making sure your place of business online is compatible with all of them. So average daily time spent using internet on any device is like 5.5 hours. So during the day, you have about 5.5 hours online to engage your customers. And only about 1% of the time they're actually looking for your business. Most of the time they're looking for information, they're searching for something, they're being entertained, they're working. But there are ways of reaching your customers within these different apps. Over half, on almost all of these, believe that within Australia, people are believing that technologies are providing more opportunities than risks, and they would prefer to complete tasks digitally whenever possible. I do find that as you kind of go up the demographics and get older, that people are still liking to make phone calls, but the trend is changing, and people are now moving towards interfacing with even instant messages. A lot of people now are getting calls on WhatsApp. WhatsApp now has a business functionality where you can send messages to people about your business.
So WhatsApp, is it a Chinese company that owns?
WhatsApp?
Yeah.
WhatsApp is owned by Facebook. So within social and instant messengers, yeah, WeChat is the Chinese one, and Baidu gets a mention later, which is China's Google. So the things you kind of want for your website. So I thought I'd really boil this down to the main core components that are really going to influence how you rank on Google, how you rank on all these search engines, and what you need. So the first one is multi-device support. As more and more people start using many different screen sizes, what you really need to be doing is to support all those. You want to make sure your user experience is nice and smooth. So people end up on your site, they know exactly what to do. And you have that one action that 80% of your customers do. I don't know if people know the Pareto principle, but that's usually your income, 80% of it comes from 20% of your customers. Identify that 20%, what do you want them to be doing on your website, and set that up as the one way to traverse through your website. Whether it's a single button multiple times throughout your one website that has a very clear call to action for them to do. Whether it's make a booking, whether it's to contact you, whether it's to call you, you should have these set up. Search optimization, so there's a lot around how do you rank high on Google, and Google's changing a lot these days where it's taking a bit more finesse to actually rank higher, but it's also opening up for opportunities for businesses to actually get in where other businesses are not. And the last one is speed. So Google has actually started ranking based on speed, so it's one of the factors that it influences that. So over 60% of searches are performed on mobile devices. This means mobile phones, this could be iPads, but it means your website has to look correct across all these different devices. Now, it's called being responsive. So there's a few ways to go about this, and I have a few resources later, but what you really want is you want a responsive website. That is, your website is flexible, and no matter what the screen size, it's going to fit on there. In 2015, this is when Google started to actually rank your website. It added points if you were a responsive website. So it actually started to downrank you if you were not functional on mobile, if you're not fast on mobile. It'll start to downrank your website on the Google results. So I've talked a little bit about this clear path to action. So really what you want on your website is you want a few buttons that almost do the same thing. You want, if they're looking at a piece of screen, often it's called the fold, which is the part of the screen that you can see. You want one action within each section that guides them, usually to the same action. So on our website, we have a lot of start free buttons. So the start free is what we want our customers to do. For you, it might be message me, call me, make a booking, create an online appointment, something like that. So you want a clear path to action, and you want that to be consistent throughout so that the user doesn't get confused. It's very daunting for a user to end up on a website. It's full of information, lots of jazzy pictures, lots of different things that they can do. And this is an example of the old Twitter interface, which had so much going on. It's a lot simpler now. So search optimization. So I really wanted to go over how important it is to rank high on Google. So what you see here is, this is the click-through ratio. So this is the percentage of people that click on your listing in a search engine based on its ranking that it shows up. So this is number one. The blue line is branded. So if you have your brand online, you're a little more likely to get clicked if they're doing a brand search. But it pretty quickly drops off. So if you're number 2 for your brand search, it's likely that the number 1 person is actually going to get clicked on. So even if someone's searching a brand and someone's actually ranking higher than you are for that, it could be something because you're bidding on something like accounting in Sydney. And you're trying to bid for that keyword and someone's getting above you. Even though you have your brand name there, they're more likely to click on the person that appears above you. And as you can see, result 9, after that, this is page 2. Page 2 is the dead zone. No one goes to page 2. I think, there you go, like over 90% do not go past the first page. Over 50% of your traffic is driven by SEO. So just by the content that you've got on your website. And I'm going to show you a few tools later where you can actually optimize, use better words, use better keywords to try and engage your customers like this. 70% is organic, 30% paid. So the paid is when you're actually paying for an ad on Google, and the 70% is just coming in based on Google searches. And this is why I'm going to talk about content later, and it's really important that you rank for more than just your brand. You want to be ranking for things that your customers are looking for. And Google has 100 billion searches each month.
Just out of interest, because we're in manufacturing,
Yeah.
and that's a different concept, a way of looking at things.
Yeah.
Because people want to go and see, whereas you've got a more popular product that's more freely available.
So do people want to come and see the big machine before they buy it?
Or else we try and put it up there with it working.
Yeah.
So you can turn it, we're trying to get it so we can turn the machine around now.
So you'll often find if your deal size is more than, say, $1,000 for something, if you're talking bigger manufacturing.
Oh, we're talking, say, a piece of machinery, $150,000.
Yeah, so it's often going to be really hard to close deals over $1,000 online. Yeah. It's very unlikely if you're looking to get a sale over $1,000 that people are just going to put their credit card details in and buy. For something like manufacturing where you are selling several $100,000 and you're trying to get those, my main advice for people in that line of business is to try and land calls and details. So those customers that are on your website, try and acquire their details and try and follow up with a call. And that's what I find is really important for that, because you're not going to close a sale online as soon as they see it. You want your sales team, whoever it is, to actually get their details or to get them on a mailing list to retarget them. For a lot of local businesses, maps is now becoming increasingly important. This is a search that I did earlier today for tax accountant Sydney. And what you'll see is that there are actually no search results that show before the maps. If you're not set up on Google Maps, then you will not show up here and your results will not be clickable. So if you're not integrated with the Google Maps, you won't be showing up here.
So Sean, has Shannon know to pay a premium to be first on that list?
No, they've just set it up properly. So they've set this up, they've got a few reviews, which is likely also why they're ranking decently. They probably have a few other factors. They probably have their social media set up. They may have quite a bit of traffic. There'll be a few ranking factors to go into this, but I can see that this person here has no reviews, so I would say it's probably not hard to actually get ranking within the maps. And a lot of that is within Google My Business. So Google has a new feature that you can, if your website supports it, you can integrate with it, not have to put in any details yourself. Otherwise, you can go in and you can set it up yourself and kind of connect it back to your website. This is a longer search that I did. I tried to get one that had a few more ads and could show you a bit more. So there's a lot going on here, but what I wanted to point out, the main things are ad, maps. By the time I get to this point, my screen was probably here. So I only saw this part when I first did the search. After that, I kept scrolling. I get here. This is a marketplace. This is some job ad. I'm sure people could rank higher than this. This is not accounting jobs. This is probably somebody looking for an accountant. It probably wouldn't be hard for you to rank within here either. You can see here that neither of these have reviews either. You keep coming down, and the first result for a tax accountant is here, which is probably 3 scrolls down worth of screen page. Again, marketplace, job ad, another one. But you can see, and by the time you get to the bottom, ad. There are really only about 3 accounting firms that rank for accountant in Sydney. And this is why it's getting harder. You can also see that the number 1 ranking after the maps is someone that actually has got their ratings set up. And I'm going to go into a bit about how do you add these jazzy bits to your thing later.
So why didn't Shannon Naylor come up in?
Not ranking very well. Needs a bit of work on the content probably. A few more integrations. There's a lot of reasons. Having a website, it's not something that you can just kind of leave and has a passive thing and continually to rank high. It needs to be something that, if not you, then somebody else is currently working on or trying to improve for you. Speed is really important. So 50% of people expect your site to load in about 2 seconds, and there's a 40% abandonment rate over 3 seconds. So this means people will actually close out of your website after 3 seconds. People's first impressions and their attention span is really low, and first impressions really matter. You want to be a snappy, professional website that loads fast and people trust you. I think it was Amazon that did a massive study, and they were showing that how many billions of dollars they would lose each year based on even just milliseconds increasing in load time. 2 seconds delay can result in a lack of customer conversion. So one of the things that you should be tracking on your website is how many hits versus how many customers do I get, and really the end goal there is to continually improve that percentage and that ratio. And they've started now including speed as a ranking factor. So again, if some of those websites that we're looking at before that want to rank in here want to get a bit of a bump, it may be that they need to improve their speed. It could be a lot of things. It's most likely a variation of things. So businesses out there are paying several thousands for websites, and the rate of which websites are increasing in their technicality and their difficulty each year, it's meaning that a lot of SMEs are having to go back year on year and pay a whole new developer to go through and build it all again. There are ways of getting around this, but this was a bit of a graph that one of the people had put out around their conversion rate on their website. So this was based just before they released their new website, and they had a conversion rate of about 2%. So out of 100 people that come on, about 2 convert to a customer. After they'd updated their website, they ended up with about a 12% conversion rate. So these factors can have quite a really good benefit for your business, but they've generally been pretty expensive throughout the years. Now, as I said before, I think the age of paying thousands of dollars for your website is slowly dwindling off. I did find one company that would only take websites of 50,000 or more, but I'm seeing a lot less of those kind of companies, and I'm seeing a lot more platforms come up where you just pay a monthly fee, and if it's not working out for you, you can switch to someone else and try it out without upfront costs. So this is the time. Any questions about just websites generally? This is something that I'll have on the slides, and this is a kind of a few places where you can go and get a few different resources. If you want to check it online yourself, there's a lot of tools that will allow you to check speed, will allow you to check responsiveness, whether you're doing the right search stuff. You can prove it with different kind of resources here. If you want to outsource it, I've suggested a freelancer. You can go down a few different paths. I've included a few different links there for hiring them, or you can partner with an agency that will actually help you do it. I'll have these slides online, so if you can't get a good shot of this slide, then I'm happy to provide these. Does anyone have any questions about websites generally? My next topic is digital marketing, so it's going to be a little different. Yeah?
Yeah, that pickup rate you mentioned about 50%, what sort of age group are we talking about? My kids would want to, they do things really quickly.
Yeah.
Are we talking,
I mean, this is an average. So this is an average. So I would say that this probably expands, and most people are using the internet. I would say that potentially older generations probably have a bit more patience, but I'd even say that it's relative to other websites. So as other websites start acting faster and faster, I would say your patience drops. You're not used to speeds. If you were to use a website that loaded as fast as it did 5 years ago, you yourself would probably be quite annoyed. You'd be like, man, why is this so slow compared to all the other websites? But well, I mean, that's got problems in and of itself, doesn't it? I'm on 4G at home because I can't get NBN, so it's not really working out for me on that front either. Australia is a hard one. One of the things you can do is you can host your website in Australia and try and get a bit of a performance there. There's a few other things that you can do to get your speed up. Any other questions?
The person who's making the decision will have a tendency to have much more patience to work to clarify.
I think it depends how
then the person is not making the decision.
it depends how how committed they are to buy when they end up on your site, and that they want to buy for you. A lot of people might end up on there and they're actually just shopping around, but if you can get them and you can make it enticing for them to go through to your website and not go and check a competitor, then that's really what you want to be setting up. You want to be setting up a funnel, and what you can do is you can set something up so that when they go to close your website, you offer them a discount. And there are certain kind of things that people do on a website to know that they're about to exit. They scroll all the way to the bottom of the page really quickly. That shows they're about to close your website. They move their mouse up towards the top right-hand corner. They're about to close your website. And you can actually have something there that re-engages them on that part. Or if they are going off, and I'd say most people are not those committed buyers. I'd say the majority of people, knowing how low conversion rates usually are, the majority of people are probably there just to check it out. And if you can retarget them on Facebook or some other media channel, your conversion rate will go up. If they're already going to buy from you, potentially you don't have to try as hard. Did anyone else have any questions about websites? Cool. So, can I have a raise of hands? Who does digital marketing in here? Who advertises something online? Who has, yeah? One? Two?
We advertise on.
Yeah, okay, cool. And who advertises through traditional media? Radio, newspaper? No? Okay. Well, then maybe you might find this enlightening on both sides. So one of the differences between traditional and digital advertising is that digital is really targeted. You can target the channel, you can target the demographic, you can set your cost, and it's a lot cheaper, and you're not doing a big broadcast. The problem with these traditional media places is it costs a lot of money, and you don't know who you're reaching. You have no way of tracking it. So one of the things that I like the most about digital marketing is not only can I track, but I can automate what happens to those customers.
Like I had an experience today, I'm trying to get a zip water cooler for the factory. I went up, Googled zip coolers, then I had to basically have no pricings in there.
Yeah.
And you've got to get more. And then what you do is you ring them, you go to sales, then they transfer you to a rep who wants to go out and see you.
Oh, okay. But you knew what you wanted. You knew what you wanted, right?
I know what I want.
Yeah, they should have been able to somehow serve you. And that's going back to those stats before. People want to be able to self-checkout. People want to be able to self-service. I went down to a Woolies the other day. There were so many aisles where no one was using them, and people were lining up in the self-serve checkout. People really like this idea of self-serve, and I think that people should be taking that idea over. Not everyone, not everyone, I'll cop that, but a lot of people are moving towards this self-serve thing. The other thing you can do with digital versus traditional is you can A/B test. You can run multiple different kind of ads at once, spread your costs across two, and then see what works out better. Usually what you'll do is you'll be running two ads, you'll take the one that's less performing, then you'll swap that with another one, and continue to iterate through these until you find something that's working the best for you. You can set up auto expansion, you can set up goals, so I can tell Google, hey, I want the kind of customer that goes through straight to my booking form, and I want you to try and focus on those kind of customers, and it'll actually learn, it'll improve for you. Someone was asking about age and kind of what the demographics are. So this is 25 to 34-year-olds on social media. Can I get a raise of hands? Who's like most customers is in 25 to 34? 35 to 44? 45 to 54? Yeah? A bit older? So you're still finding that there's actually not a huge difference between 45 to 55 and 35 to 44 on social media. You can still engage these people. What I've actually found is the older your demographics get, the more likely they are to click on your ads. I actually have quite a nice conversion rate when it comes to older people. I think if you can show them a nice informative ad, that they're going to click on it, whereas a lot of younger people now are just like, it's another ad, it's another ad. They seem to be a bit more responsive to actually trying to reach out to them for something that they want. So these ones were converting less. Google kind of started to focus more on running the better running ads. So for $103, they got about 27 clicks through. So these guys iterated through a bunch. These particular ads were probably running for a weekend or so. So we spent about $100 over a weekend, got about 27 people through, and off that we were converting about 15%. So we were able to run ads get people through to a website, capture their email at about 15% of whatever they were clicking through on. And then the students would chase them up with emails, and then pretty quickly the 2-week kind of intensive subject finished. At the end of it, this team sent out about 200 emails. So they're able to reach out, try and contact people who were particularly interested in what they had to sell. So if my students can do it in 2 weeks, I'd say any kind of business can go and at least play with it, set it up, try and get it running themselves. When focusing on social, really think about where your customers are and where they're hanging out. So I found this one online which said that for financial services, some of the ideal things for you to be on is Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Now LinkedIn has a really nice feature where you can send people a message to their inbox offering your service, and you can target them by job title, by industry, by company size, quite a few things. This on the left is someone that was on a Facebook group, so not using paid advertising, but actually hanging out in these online communities to get customers. And this guy got about 30 direct clients over a year. This guy does startup law. So he was hanging out in the Sydney Startups Facebook group. It has about, 10,000, 15,000 people, and he was getting leads all year from this. Every time someone would come onto this page, they'd ask a question, he'd get a response, and almost a couple of times a month, he would actually land a lead from that. So I'd say get out there, get a bit active on these sites. There's a lot of people asking questions. A lot of people are now bypassing Google and going straight to Facebook, going into a group and asking for some business advice. So this is a bit about Facebook targeting and how specific you can get. So before I talked about specificity, so here's just an example of the kind of things you can do on Facebook, right? You can set age groups, gender, language that they speak, demographics. So this is an example of someone trying to target parents of expected parents in 0 to 12 months, new mums within this financial range. And this is only a small slice of actually what they give you. You can sort by, over here you can see that they've actually set up like 20 miles within California. So you can kind of set up these demographics, and what I'm usually suggesting to people is for each demographic you're trying a different kind of area within your business. If it's tax advice, if it's self-managed super fund, you kind of set up different campaigns for those, and you're trying to get different kinds of customers. You know the best converting kind of customer for each of your service, so you are in the best place to actually inform Facebook of who to target. This is a LinkedIn one. I find LinkedIn really useful for sending people messages and reaching out to see if they're interested. People are really responsive. People open their LinkedIn emails, and people like to respond. You can even put little forms in there that just capture details. So here you can include locations, years of experience, even job titles, job functions, industry names, company names. You can do a whole bunch in here.
So is this the free version or is premium?
So both these are free.
Free.
LinkedIn and Facebook let you go in and set these up. It costs you based on interaction. So it'll cost you every time you get a customer's details. You'll be able to do it every time they fill in a form and enter their details. And in this way, you're able to actually figure out what your ROI is on your marketing spend. Again, one of the things I like about digital marketing over traditional is you can really track this stuff. All right, any questions on digital marketing? No, we're all good. So again, here are some tools. A few of these are the ones that I've been using, the ones you've seen in the screenshots. And before I upload this, I'm actually going to add a few more to this so that you can go and give these things a go yourself. So the last thing about the last 15 years. So we started with websites, then we talked about digital marketing. Now I want to talk about content marketing, which is a little different. In digital marketing, you're paying per lead you get or per customer. In content marketing, what you're doing is you're creating content that your users consume as media. So whether it's writing blogs or articles, doing a video like I'm doing now, digital resources, webinars, you can give away all these things, and it doesn't cost you a lot. It takes you a little bit of effort to set it up, and even then you can go and outsource it yourself. You can go and pay someone to write a blog for you that has a lot of keywords. And what you'll find is that people are blocking a lot of ads. So using a lot of these display ads are going to be blocked. You're already limiting your market. The other thing I'd say about that is that I'd much prefer to do a piece of content than show an ad. People like reading content. If you can put out something out there that's in your particular area that you can write about with conviction and people are going to read it, then they're more likely going to engage you. Most people skip ads. Most people don't like it. Most people are out there to try to inform themselves about something, and the idea is to give them a piece of information, figure out the funnel, and try and convert them into a customer for you. What you'll find is that those conversions will probably cost you less than the digital marketing. Digital marketing will cost you based on everyone that clicks or enters, but that's not ultimately a customer. A customer will be a subset of that. You may get like 100 people through, but maybe only 5 become customers. Where it's actually a lot cheaper to put a lot of content out there and get people to come through. So here's a lead growth for companies that don't blog, companies that do. You don't need to do this yourself. You don't need to be sitting down and take away time from your core business. You can actually just pay someone to go and write good content. You can come up with the titles, you can come up with the content, and you can get someone else to write it. And going back to some of my freelancery things or agencies, you can go and engage these people to write the content or create the content for you. Another good thing is putting out free ebooks. What you can do with ebooks and other kind of resource is you can capture emails. Capturing an email is probably one of the most worthwhile things you can do because people are really unlikely to unsubscribe from your newsletter, particularly if you're putting out informative email. So grabbing an email address, adding people to newsletters, sending out maybe infrequently so they don't think it's spam, but providing some kind of value, they're very unlikely to unsubscribe from that. Okay, so that's kind of the where should you be now? What are companies doing now to get the advantage? We've gone through website, paid marketing, content marketing. Any questions on that?
Is it possible through content marketing and paid marketing for it to evolve to a spot where it actually closes the sale?
Yes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about chatbots in a bit and what a chatbot is capable of doing. And it can close while you're sleeping. And it's one of the really cool things that's where companies are now kind of moving to. Facebook's trying to encourage it, and that's what I'm going to be talking about a little bit. So this is going back to, okay, what do the next few years look like for businesses? How do you guys want to engage with your customers? What do you want to do to get the upper hand? I've said it a few times, 99% of the time your customers are not looking for you, they're looking for some other kind of information. Be that other kind of information. Put it out there, create content, create blogs, get something that people are actually going to come across, not just when they're searching your brand. Because most of the time, they're not searching for your brand. If you're doing, say, end-of-year tax account, they're doing it once a year. They're doing it at the end. But if you can engage them throughout the year, maybe it's Baz time, and you can do a little bit of information on that, capture an email, and then send out another email when it gets around. You can retarget them on Facebook. I actually engaged my accountant because he was quite active on LinkedIn, and he posted a lot about how tax is theft. And I was like, you know what? That's the kind of accountant that I want. Someone that, is out there really fighting for the man. So I eventually hired him because of all of the content that he was putting out. I was like, hey, well, I know what this person's about. I have engaged with him a few times. I've looked at his content. And then eventually I reached out.
Who is this guy?
Atlas Accounting. Samuel's the guy's name. And then the other thing is working. I'll talk a little bit about integration later, but did you know that you can offer your own kind of templates, your own Excel spreadsheet templates within Google Sheets, within Google Drives? You can make all these things and connect them into tools that people are using to work with. You can actually sell within working tools these days. This is a thing showing that more people are using now internet than they are watching TV, than they are listening to radio, that they are reading newspapers, reading magazines. At this point, I'm telling most people that don't have a massive budget that traditional marketing is almost always too expensive now. You can close leads on the internet for a lot cheaper and a lot more specifically because people are always online. Going back to closing sales while you're not around, chat and automating inside chat is becoming a really big thing. They expect the chat bot market to grow at a rate of like 35%. It's going to be big business, and already you can use it so that when people come on your website, this is an example of a website that's using it. So this is using the Facebook Messenger one. So on their website, in the bottom corner, you've probably seen this on a few. What you can actually do now is you can get customers to interact with you. So if they're scrolling down the page, you can be like, hey, I see you haven't clicked on anything yet. It's been 10 seconds. Do you have a question that you want to ask me? What you can pre-populate this with is particular questions, and you can actually automate your responses, and at the end you can have it so that you send them a link through to your deal close page, whatever that may be. Maybe on your website you want them to make an initial booking. So if for a lot of the people that I work for, it's appointments and bookings. So what I'll do is at the end, send them through to the page where they can actually make the booking. You can even take the booking details on here, take the details on here and make the booking yourself.
The chatbots are not real people,
They're scripts, yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can automate part of them, or you can jump in as well and kind of take over a chat. So this is within the Facebook one. So what we do for ours is we have a few baseline questions, but if we're online, if we're awake, we will actually see the messages come through and we can jump on the chat and kind of intervene if we want. But usually we set up a happy path in the messenger, so if we're not around, it takes them through and kind of tries to close the deal.
You'd have maybe a set number of people who wanted that.
Yeah, so we all get a message if someone starts talking. So for us, it's the business owners. If you have like a support room, you can actually get these to go through to a support chat. You can integrate all this with whatever kind of software your support people are using. Often it might create a support ticket or something like that, depending on how big you are and where you want it to go. So this is going back to the age thing and kind of impatience. So this is the difference between millennials and baby boomers talking about chat apps. And what surprised me was that the difference wasn't that large. Particularly, you can see that baby boomers outrank the millennials on a few of these questions, particularly around getting an instant response, answering simple questions, easy communication. They don't always necessarily want to chat with a person, even if it's just automated responses and the feeling of chat. It's actually a nice way to interface with a company. Going back to closing deals through these, you can see here that they've actually set up within this one hey, I'm interested in this kind of product, and then they actually show them the product in the chat. And people are spending an increasing amount of time within chat apps. It's not just social anymore. It's social and instant messaging where people are spending a lot of their time. Facebook owns both WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, and both of those now have business functionality. I wanted to talk a little bit about local businesses and where that's kind of going. We touched on a little bit before about Google My Business. You want to be on maps. You want to have rich listings, so you want to make sure that you have the stars coming up. If you look yourselves up and you have one of these and it says own this business, I'd suggest claiming it and updating the details so that you can rank higher with this. Backlinks is a thing that not a lot of people focus on. That's going and getting other websites to link back to you. The more people that are linking to you, the more authority your website is seen to have, the higher you will appear in that ranking search. So going back to that beginning, why aren't a lot of people ranked within those first 3 pages of results? Probably they don't have a lot of backlinks. The bigger ones there were things like H&R Block and larger accounting firms. I'm assuming they have some kind of backlink strategy. Being active in directories, being active on social. These are all things that are going to influence where you rank within Google. So here are a few of the new things that you can do within the My Business. You can now actually write posts. So if you search for a business, they get all the details. You can now offer, if you're a restaurant, you can now take a booking within Google. So it's not even going back to your website. Google is actually talking to your website and making the booking for you. I'm imagining it's not going to be far off before SMEs have that functionality available to them. You can now put posts. So this will all show up when you Google that business name. It's pretty easy to add. There's other things that you can do. You can add smart, rich listings. So you can add a rating. This little thing here where it has these little breadcrumbs is again a different thing. You can see it's a little differently here. They haven't set it up on this one. And here they're kind of listing out their items. So if you're in manufacturing and you're selling items, you can actually put your in stock, how much does it cost, all within the Google platform. So now where are people searching? In 2005, most people are on Google. This is the current rankings for search engines, and YouTube is number 2. It's getting to the point now where people don't want to just read information, they want to be told the information. They want someone to explain it to them. They might want to do some kind of, I think they call it active reading, where they're kind of skimming through the page while someone is talking to them. But really it's increasing that people are looking for stuff on YouTube. They want to see videos and they want to be explained. I've seen small accounting firms in Sydney just get their phone out and go on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is a really untapped resource, but it's full of business people. Go on there, they just start talking to the camera about something. Self-managed super funds, tax returns, they start putting out there. And I've seen them get quite a bit of engagement. If you're doing items, so you're doing some e-commerce, Amazon is number 3. Facebook, as I said before, people are searching things in that Facebook search functionality. They're asking things in Facebook groups. You want to be in front of your customers all the time and get in front of them. Bing, for those still using default browser, which is actually quite a few people, like you said, didn't like Edge, but even Windows itself, if you do a search, will use Bing. So it's actually quite good to optimize for Bing as well. Baidu, if you have a lot of Chinese customers, I definitely recommend checking out Baidu. It's China's Google. And if you have a Chinese audience or a demographic that are Chinese, then going to Baidu and advertising there could be a really good strategy for you, because I bet there's not a lot of Sydney firms who are doing this. Other places that people are looking. So when we went and showed all those listings, you saw that OneFlare. There are a lot of marketplaces now where businesses are getting the bulk of their business from a marketplace that's offering something. It could be Airtasker, it could be OneFlare, it could be Freelancer, but people are actually utilizing those marketplaces to get their own customers. For events, if you're wanting to do events, you're wanting to get more customers, setting up a Facebook event, a meetup event, Eventbrite, you're going to have more traffic, more people will know about your event. I set up a lot of things using Meetup, and it's been really good for me. I've had at least several hundred people sign up to the Meetup just from discovering it, just from looking up, hey, I want to know a bit more about websites, and a lot of the stuff that I talk about is on this. People just find me and they say, hey, at some point I'm going to attend this. They might not attend the first one after they've RSVP'd, but at some point down the track they join. Search engines, YouTube, as I said, a lot of people want to be told the answer now. So putting out those videos will also rank within Google. So if you have a video and you're able to actually position it within the Google platform, you can get your video there and people click through. And YouTube has a way of, you can add links below the video and you can kind of convert off that. Products, a lot of people will use eBay just to sell e-commerce products. And that's another good one. So think of everything as a search engine. Like I said before, Google Sheets, Google Docs. People are doing work in these. Microsoft Office templates. You can go and make your own template as a business and then try and get leads through creating those different kind of things that people find useful. So again, these are the few of the things that I use. For broadcasting, I like YouTube. For instance, this video right now, I'm streaming it, and then I'll have content on my YouTube page. And it was actually pretty easy. I'm here, I'm doing this already. I do this a few times, I just stream it, and it gets you more content on your thing. If it's interesting, more people will watch it, and then you get to know what's interesting content for your consumers. Because you will see who's viewing it, is it increasing, is it going down. For chatbots, you're asking before, I use Dialogflow, and Facebook Messenger also has an app where you can go and set these up yourself, and then I would embed it within your website. So I'd make sure that you have something down in the bottom screen that's actually going to engage them as they land on your website. For new platforms, you can check out, there's a few websites where they release up-and-coming products that are getting released. So if you can pick up on one that's both local and trending well, you can try and get in before everyone else. Google My Business, API integrations are one of the things that I like to focus on. Automation, there's a few tools out there where you can actually just say, hey, if someone does an action on this app, then I want to send them an email or perform an action within a different app. So a few things, make your website work for you, treat it as an investment. This means track the ROI. Make sure you're getting something out of your website. If you're spending thousands of dollars on your website, you want to make sure you're getting something from it. Otherwise, you want to change a tactic or change a strategy. It should be like an employee. It should be like a sales employee that you pay a lot less to over the year, right? This person should be getting you leads, should be getting you results. And you want to stand out from the crowd. And in this day, it means either having a platform that adapts with the internet or having someone there on your team that's working with it and kind of improving it as you go. So this was kind of my first iteration of this talk. Please feel free to come and give me some feedback after. I want to generally know, okay, motivations to get something going online. So you've listened to this. Now, either it's not my problem. Actually, I didn't care about this. Or you're like, okay, informative, but I'm as motivated as I was before, or motivated to improve. So can I get a show of hands? Who's on the weak, not my problem? Yeah? That's fine. There's lots of people like that, right? You're always going to have people that come through. At least it was hopefully somewhat informative. Same as before. Yeah? Yeah? A few people? And is anyone motivated to improve? Is anyone like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, nice. Cool. I'm happy.
Can I give them login details for you to have a look at my website?
You can, actually, and you can. And we'll get to the upsell in a second. So let me finish and I'll take a question. So there is no set and forget, only delegate. So the other question I want to ask people is, when they're thinking about this, are they thinking they want to DIY and do it themselves using the tools? Do they want to kind of try and self-manage someone, or do they want to partner with an agency and just ask someone else to take care of it? So is there anyone who's interested in DIY? Probably from those that are motivated. Yeah? Yeah? Is anyone interested in managing someone that does it for them, whether it's an employee or a freelancer? Yeah. And what about partnering with an agency? So just being like, you know what, I want to be hands off, I'll engage a company to do it for me.
No, you pay the fees.
Yeah. Okay, so wrapping it up, my philosophy for kind of going forward and what's going to happen in the internet is that you don't have different cars for different shops. And the way I think about it is you should only have to manage kind of one instance of your business data online, and that should be your website. It should have your name on it. You shouldn't be having to be managing just Google My Business and then a Facebook account and then everything else. Everything should stem from your address online, which is your website. And that's kind of my philosophy, that you shouldn't have to focus on technology, you should have to focus on your business. Something else should do as much of the heavy lifting as possible. And this is meant to be a funny picture of someone servicing their car, but obviously it did not work. You shouldn't have to service your own car. Very few people will service their own car, and they're hobbyists. And this is what I'm doing now. So currently, along with the uni stuff, I've been building websites for about 10 years. So when I left my job at KPMG, I thought, you know what, I am going to try to actually execute on all this. So starting this year, I released a platform which does mostly this part, which is for, and I'm willing to put money on it, it's cheaper than you're currently paying for hosting. For a fixed fee, we just have a website that kind of updates as time goes on. We have a fully managed one, so if you want to do nothing, we again have a package for that. And then for people that already have a website or they want to kind of just focus on one of these kind of areas, they can chat to us and be like, hey, look, we're interested in just doing this part and we can help you out with that. And that's it. Any questions, guys? Yeah, okay, let's take it.
My question is actually starting from the acorn level of starting up a business.
Yeah.
So when you have just a concept and you want to know how to go about developing that so that you get the full-grown business out of it, where do you start from?
So this is what we do with my students. I said, most students have a business idea, and teaching entrepreneurship, they come and they think it's going to be the best idea, it's going to disrupt everything, it's going to be a game changer. So what I get them to do is, the first thing is, prove me your market. Go and use one of these tools and show me that people are asking for what you're selling. If you can't pass that hurdle, then justify to me why you think you've got a business idea. So that's generally where I put the starting point, is your idea is not necessarily going to be the thing. In fact, like I said, I've started this thing at the beginning of the year. Before that, it was a short course marketplace. So there was a point where I think last year I gave a talk where it was called Course Couch, it was a different thing. Really, there was a stronger market in this stuff. There was a stronger market in me helping businesses, and I've been doing it for 10 years. People were still reaching out to me. I was like, okay, well, why am I going down this path when I can just see there's a stronger demand here? And after researching it, finding that demand, going down that path.
So where do you find the...
So there's a whole bunch of tools. So for my students, I was getting them to do keyword analysis. So they were generally more broad businesses. So they could say, well, are people jumping online and actually looking to solve this problem? And if so, then they continued. What some of the students found was, okay, well, not everyone's actually trying to solve this problem, but we want to work in this area. And the reason they've pitched me that business idea is probably because they're interested in that area. So what I generally say is, well, take that data that you've got, feel around a bit and see where the market is, because they will be asking for something. And ultimately, you can't push something on the market. The market's going to ask something from you. So I find for me, it's challenging assumptions, and that's what I do with the students. I say, well, I feel like you've made these assumptions. Do you have data to show? And the first starting point for me is customer, and are they looking for it? Is there an actual need?
So you're going to give the slides to us?
Yeah. I'll add a few more tools in here, because on my way over, I was like, you know what, I have a whole bunch more tools. Yeah.
A bit off the track, but
Yeah.
you might have come across it. If I was thinking of using the logic that you've been talking about, using the internet for achieving an end. So say if the goal is, I want to get elected as a member of parliament.
Yeah. Yeah.
political. So if I'm a voter, I go to Google and I type in, who should I vote for?
Yeah.
So I haven't done that, but I'm going to do it when I get
Yeah.
home.
You're in East Russia.
I would say that
So
everyone
my
is.
question to you is, are the political parties getting into this
almost
sort of
have been doing it
role?
for years. Have been doing it for years. I think political parties have picked up on this for quite a while, and you often find going back. I mean, the whole Trump, Hillary, Russia, all that stuff was around digital advertising. Was around how are they influencing markets. I would have a guess that that's the first one that made really big headlines, and that before that, people were using this. I'd say people would have had political newsletters for a long time. I would say as long as you have people that understand how to use these tools to get customers, people would have been using it for not just business. I'd almost say that getting a vote is being like a political campaigner is almost like a business. I would say you'd use very similar tactics.
Obama won the presidency from exactly that.
Yeah, I'm sure that, that's what I'm saying. Even going back, I'm sure that elections before that were using social media and digital marketing to gain votes. We'll go down the front and work our way back.
I want to ask something on the website security
Yeah.
features.
Yeah.
That's very important.
So this is one of the things why it kind of led me to build my own platform where you can just kind of click and have your own website and someone else manages the technical part. Because if you're managing your own website, and when I was back at the AFP, I worked in the cybercrime team, a lot of time I was investigating people getting hacked websites. And one of the things I realized was people really don't know a lot about their own website security. So taking that away from the end user and saying, look, you don't have to worry about that, that's our problem. And right now in Australia, if you get hacked, there's a mandatory notice to ASIC. So businesses are now incentivized to have those walls up in place. And I would say as an SME, you really want to outsource any of that risk. You want to say, look, if someone gets hacked, I want them taking the blame, not me. And it's going to be their software. And that means that all the risk gets transferred to your technology provider. And that's where I'd say it should sit. I would say if you run an accounting business, your core worry shouldn't have to be website security.
But isn't the reputation of the organisation dependent on, your security agency doing the right thing? Because
Yeah, you don't want to choose a bad provider. You want to go with someone that's built this for purpose, that does it for a lot of businesses, that kind of engages in best practices when it comes to security. So for instance, we just went through a round of penetration testing, which is where you get a whole bunch of hackers and they try to hack your website. So we've just actually gone through that ourselves, and anything that they come up with issues, then it goes and it gets fixed, and you do that regularly so to keep on top of it.
Just on that question you were just saying about your hackers.
Yeah.
So what happens if one of your guys that set up the program leaves and he decides to hack?
Well, we've already fixed what he found.
Is it always the hacker, the guy that's hacking is the guy that actually invents it?
I would say that there's a pretty clear difference between white hat and black hat hackers. Those doing it for bad, those doing it for good. Yeah. So mostly there's a difference between good and bad, and those people that are doing it for good make enough money from it. It's a pretty profitable industry to not be underground and hacking. A lot less risk.
I'll just ask another question.
Yeah.
Really left field.
Yeah.
I've got a client who just started up a dog grooming business.
Yeah.
He's gone on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much business he's picked up.
Yeah, right?
But how much is Facebook charging?
So, I wonder if I have cost per clicks here. Probably not.
He's actually, in the last 9 months, his business is tripled.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it comes down to your ROI. If you know you're converting better than what Facebook's charging, then you're doing well. I don't think I have stats here.
It's just interesting, like...
Usually what you'll find is that if your ticket price is, say, if his dog grooming was $100, you'll generally find that to get your first sale, it might cost you $100, but then that'll probably be the most expensive sale you land. And then as you get better at it, as you start optimizing it, your cost generally comes down. So generally find your first one's probably about the same as your ticket price, and then you start to work your way down.
It's just fascinating because he said to me, when he started, I said, dude, that's interesting, and he just, now I've seen him, he says it's,
Yeah.
he's doing about $15 a week now, which is better than what he's doing.
Yeah, and getting them through Facebook, right? Yeah, it's a really nice way of generating leads. And so my students use both Google and Facebook for their lead generation. And Facebook was maybe, on Google I was paying maybe $3.50. Maybe Facebook I was paying $10 for a lead. So say if it takes me 10 leads before I convert one, that's like $30 and $100 to convert a lead for what would be like a larger deal size than that. Yeah, done that.
So if you're running a service business like accountancy or whatever,
Yeah.
you're looking for a particular type of client.
Yeah.
you know, a small, medium-sized business that does this, that, and the other, that's got specific problems. How effective is this type of marketing? But in the and first question, second question is, I've seen webinars being formed online, and I don't know whether that's a really good way to go down the path where you educate people on how to do stuff and or teach them about the topic and get them interested in you and buying into your brand and what you're about and what have you. Is that?
So webinars are quite useful if you have a larger deal size. They get to know you, they spend a bit of time with you, they can ask questions, they can interact with you. And as a business owner, it's a really good way to actually speak with people. Am I solving the right problems? What are they asking me? Should I tailor my content? Should I change it up? As for different service lines and how do you go about the digital marketing, that's what I like about digital marketing is I can have a particular campaign for self-managed super funds, a particular one for BAS statements, a particular one for tax returns. And then I can say, well, I've got 3 different pages on my website that each do a different thing and are booking for a different thing, and I'll run separate campaigns for each of them and then say, okay, well, I know that at this time, it might be a timing of the year thing as well, particularly in that kind of field where you're like, okay, I know what happens this is when people are looking for it, this is when I should roll out my campaigns. But yeah, I'd say because you're allowed to have a much smaller audience size and be much more targeted, yeah, then you can actually optimize your ads and going back to doing different ads for different kind of markets. Where was it? This one. So I would almost have like 3 ads, say if you have 3 different segments, and then I'd have 9 ads. And then for each different customer segment that I'm targeting, I will just keep testing out different ads and keep improving them. I might find that actually one of my service lines is not that profitable, and then what I'll do is actually say, okay, well, let's try and swap this out with something else. Let's try and go back and do some keyword research, find out what people are looking for, and see if I can tap into something that I'm not doing. I would always be trying to sell multiple different services and then cutting out the ones that are not working for you. If no one's finding value in it, then why serve it? Yeah. Any other questions?
The webinars, to run webinars, you need to have other platforms like WebEx, Cisco, and all those things you have to pay.
So I have YouTube running now.
Okay.
I have my camera, I have a microphone, and I just go live broadcast. And what you can do is you can run ads. So if people are interested in something like this, you can go and say, hey, do you want to subscribe to the webinar? You can join, you can watch it, you can check it out. Otherwise, you can just do something like this and it can go and get uploaded. You can see if people are interested in this kind of content. People will give you feedback. I also go back and review them to see, okay, what can I do better? How can I improve on this? I'm probably going to be, this is the first time I've given this one this year, so as I get more and more talks throughout the year, what I'll do is I'll probably just keep recording each and keep improving on it and then see where I've come throughout the year. So even if it's not just to get customers, it's good to see how you're going with your speaking.
So you're getting lots out of us from here today, eh?
Probably not. There's probably like 1 or 2 people watching it. I've only just started doing this, which is why I want to test it out, but last time I had about,